There are certain things we do every single day that we just assume we have perfectly figured out.
Oh, yeah. Like breathing or, blinking.
Right, chewing, and of course walking.
Yeah.
I mean, it is the ultimate factory-installed setting, right? You literally just put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, it feels incredibly simple, almost mindless.
Exactly. But what if the exact way you're walking down the street right now is secretly sabotaging your joints and, like, draining your energy levels without you even realizing it?
It's a pretty jarring thought to entertain. We look at walking as just this basic mode of transportation, right? A
Yeah.
way to get from the couch to the kitchen or the car to the
Yeah,
office.
just getting from point A to point B.
Exactly. But underneath that simple exterior, human walking is a highly complex mechanical system. It's the synchronized firing of nerves, muscles, and connective tissues.
Right.
And depending on how you execute that movement, that system is either actively healing you or quietly harming you.
Okay, let's unpack this, because today's deep dive is pulling from a massive stack of research from HealthFix. Now, looking specifically at human biomechanics and physical health after the age of 50.
Which is such a crucial demographic to look at.
It really is. And reading through these sources, it becomes incredibly clear that after a certain age, your technique isn't just, a minor detail. It is the ultimate shortcut to being physically resilient.
Absolutely.
It turns out there are about 7 subtle, almost invisible errors most of us are making every single time we step out the front door. Our mission today is to break those down, fix them, and build you a perfect, beginner-friendly weekly walking schedule.
And the subtle errors really compound over time. But before we get into the mechanics of the steps themselves, we kind of have to look at the underlying physiology of natural aging.
Right, the engine itself.
Exactly. It's not something to fear, but it is a biological reality we have to design our movement around. After you cross that 50-year mark, your body undergoes these structural shifts.
Like what, specifically?
Well, your muscle mass naturally begins to decline, the elasticity in your tendons decreases, and your blood circulation can become less efficient at delivering oxygen to the extremities.
I mean, it sounds a bit like a grim laundry list, but the source material is actually incredibly optimistic about it. They refer to walking as a super habit.
Yeah, I love that term.
Right, and not just because it gets you outside. It's a super habit because of its metabolic efficiency. When you walk, you're activating multiple survival systems simultaneously.
You really are. You're forcing the heart to pump against gravity.
Yeah, and demanding structural support from the muscles, pushing blood flow up into the brain, which directly supports memory and cognitive function.
What's fascinating here is that the research consistently points out that people who walk regularly have a drastically lower risk of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and cognitive decline.
That's massive.
It is. But the crucial caveat, the detail most people totally overlook, is that the body only delivers these massive longevity benefits if the movement is executed without triggering a stress response.
Ah, okay. And that brings us to the first major hurdle, right? Mistake number 1. The initial shock to the system.
Yes, the cold start.
Right. We decide to go for a health walk, we step out the front door, and we immediately launch into our absolute top walking speed. We want to get the heart rate up. We want to feel like we're exercising.
It makes sense mentally, but the sources are practically waving red flags here.
Because doing that creates what they call a localized crisis in your tissues.
Exactly. Think about the physiological state you're in before a walk. You've likely been sitting or lying down.
Probably staring at a computer.
Right. So your muscles are relatively cold, meaning blood has pooled away from the extremities. Your heart rate is at its resting baseline.
Right, you're in low gear.
And when you suddenly demand a high-output cardiovascular response, you're forcing the heart to spike rapidly. Plus, you're asking stiff, unlubricated joints to immediately absorb the full impact of your body weight.
It's exactly like starting a car that's been sitting outside on a freezing winter morning and immediately redlining it in 5th gear.
That is the perfect analogy.
You have to let the engine oil circulate first. You cannot just stomp on the gas and expect the machinery to hold up. But what is the biological equivalent of that engine oil?
It's quite literal, actually. In your body, it's called synovial fluid.
Synovial fluid, okay.
Yeah. Your major joints, so your knees, your hips, they're lined with articular cartilage. It's the smooth, white tissue that prevents your bones from grinding against each other.
Right, the shock absorbers.
Exactly. But here is the critical part. Articular cartilage does not have its own blood supply. It is completely avascular.
Wait, really? So how does it get the nutrients it needs to stay healthy and not just break down?
Through mechanical compression, the articular cartilage acts exactly like a sponge.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, when you walk slowly, the gentle compression of the joint squeezes synovial fluid into the cartilage, delivering oxygen and nutrients and lubricating the joint capsule.
So the movement literally creates the lubrication.
Precisely. But if you sprint out the door at top speed, you're pounding on a dry sponge. You're grinding the joint before the fluid has had a chance to circulate.
Which over time leads to chronic inflammation and early fatigue. That completely explains why my knees sometimes ache for the first 10 minutes of a walk and then magically feel fine. I've been pounding on a dry sponge.
Most people do. And the fix here is ridiculously simple but deeply necessary. It's just a 3 to 5 minute slow, comfortable warm-up.
So you step outside and you intentionally hold yourself back.
Exactly. You let the synovial fluid build up, you let the blood vessels dilate to accept more oxygen, and then you gradually increase your speed.
It allows your entire cardiovascular and musculoskeletal system to adapt gracefully rather than reacting to a sudden crisis. Okay, so the engine oil is warm, the fluid is circulating.
We're ready to go.
But a warm engine doesn't help you if the chassis of the car is completely out of alignment. And this leads us to the way we hold our bodies in space. Mistake number 2, poor posture.
Oh, this is a huge one.
I look around the park and I see the exact same posture everywhere. Shoulders slumped, chest collapsed, and the head leaning aggressively forward, usually staring down at a smartphone, which the sources highlight as mistake number 6.
Yeah, the phone posture. That modern default posture is creating a cascade of silent physical trauma.
Silent trauma.
Yeah, let's look at the physics of the human head for a second. An average adult head weighs about 10, 12 pounds.
Okay, like a bowling ball.
Basically. In a perfect upright posture, that weight is balanced perfectly on the cervical spine, like a golf ball sitting on a tee.
Yeah.
The bones support the weight.
But the moment you crane your neck forward to look at your phone or the ground,
You lose that mechanical advantage entirely. For every inch your head moves forward out of alignment, the relative weight on your neck and upper back muscles practically doubles.
Wait, so by looking down at a screen,
You are functionally forcing your upper trapezius and neck muscles to hold up 40 to 50 pounds of torque.
that is insane.
You're asking muscles that are designed for subtle head movements to act as heavy load-bearing cranes for 30 minutes straight.
Which perfectly explains the epidemic of chronic tension headaches and shoulder pain. People think they slept on their pillow wrong, but really, they're spending their daily walk hanging a bowling ball off the front of their spine.
Exactly. It's an alignment issue.
But the part of the source material that really caught my attention wasn't just the neck strain. It was how this forward slouching posture actively sabotages your energy levels through your breathing.
Right. If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to talk about the diaphragm.
The breathing muscle.
Right. It's this large parachute-shaped muscle sitting at the base of your chest. When it contracts, it pulls downward, creating a vacuum that pulls air into your lungs.
Okay, makes sense.
But if you're slouching forward, staring at a device, your rib cage literally collapses downward.
So you are physically crushing the space your lungs need to expand.
Precisely. The parachute cannot open. You're forcing your body to rely on shallow upper chest breathing.
Which means you're taking in a fraction of the oxygen you'd normally get.
Exactly. So during an activity where your muscles are crying out for oxygen to burn for energy, you're restricting the supply line. Less oxygen directly translates to less energy.
You're making the walk substantially harder for yourself while getting a fraction of the metabolic benefit. You're practically suffocating yourself on a health walk.
It's totally counterproductive.
Plus, if you're glued to a screen, you're disconnected from your environment. A fall after age 50 carries massive stakes for long-term mobility, and you can't see the uneven sidewalk if you're reading emails.
No, you can't. It's a huge trip risk.
So we need a total postural reset. The visualization the sources provide is great. Imagine a gentle string attached to the absolute crown of your head, pulling you directly straight upward toward the sky.
I love that cue. That visualization works because it creates axial elongation.
Axial elongation.
Yeah, it naturally aligns the cervical spine, takes that 50 pounds of torque off your neck muscles, and immediately opens up the thoracic cavity so the diaphragm can actually do its job.
So you've fixed your posture, you've opened up the diaphragm, and you're finally getting enough oxygen. But your upper body isn't just there to act as a breathing apparatus.
No, it's highly involved in the movement.
And here's where I want to push back a little bit on the source material. The research emphasizes that keeping your arms completely still hanging dead at your sides is a major functional error. Mistake number 5.
It is a big mistake.
But I have to admit, When I read about active arm swinging, I immediately pictured those intense competitive mall power walkers from the 1980s with their elbows up by their ears.
Oh, sure, the exaggerated speed walking look.
Right. If I'm just taking a healthy evening stroll and my arms are relatively still, am I really cheating my own heart?
Well, you are limiting your own cardiovascular potential. It's a very common misconception that arm swinging has to be aggressive or exaggerated.
Okay, so I don't need to look like I'm in the Olympics.
No, definitely not. But to understand why still arms are a problem, we have to look at the body's fascial lines. Your body is connected diagonally. Your right shoulder is connected through a web of connective tissue down to your left hip.
So the body naturally wants to twist and counter-rotate as we step.
Yes, exactly. Natural arm movement acts as a counterbalance to the rotational force of your legs. If you lock your arms at your sides, you force your lower back to absorb all of that rotational friction.
Oh, that sounds like a recipe for lower back pain.
It absolutely is. But from a longevity and energy perspective, moving your arms removes the governor from your cardiovascular system. When your arms swing, you're recruiting the musculature of your shoulders, your upper back, and your chest.
Meaning you're forcing a massive amount of upper body muscle to demand blood flow, not just your legs.
Exactly. The heart has to pump more forcefully and efficiently to supply oxygenated blood to the entire kinetic chain, top to bottom.
So you elevate your heart rate into a healthier conditioning zone without having to walk at a physically uncomfortable or frantic speed.
That's the beauty of it.
That is a brilliant way to look at it. You don't need to walk faster to get a better workout. You just need to recruit more of your body into the movement you're already doing. Just a slight bend in the elbows, letting the arms swing in a natural, relaxed rhythm opposite your legs.
Perfect. So we have aligned the chassis, we have opened the airway, and we have engaged the upper body.
But all of this beautiful mechanical form is completely useless if your literal foundation is working against you. Let's talk about mistake number 3, the wrong shoes.
We have to talk about the shoes.
Because I look around and I see people out walking in flat, zero-drop canvas sneakers, or even worse, running shoes they bought back in 2018, where the foam has essentially turned to concrete.
Oh, I see that all the time.
How much of the aging joint pain that people complain about after 50 is actually just, dead foam?
A staggering amount of it, honestly. The shoes are your primary interface with the earth, and this brings in the concept of ground reaction forces.
Ground reaction force.
Yeah. Every single time your heel strikes the pavement, your body generates a shock wave of kinetic energy. If your shoe lacks proper structural integrity, that shock wave doesn't just disappear. It travels straight up the kinetic chain.
So it hits the heel, shoots up the tibia into the knee, up the femur into the hip, and settles right into the lower back.
Yes. Your joints are forced to act as the shock absorbers because the shoe failed to do its job.
Wow.
Over years, absorbing those ground reaction forces is what degrades the articular cartilage we talked about earlier. And as we age, the natural fat pads on the bottoms of our feet thin out, making external cushioning even more vital.
The sources are highly specific about what a functional walking shoe needs, and it goes way beyond just looking athletic.
It's not about the brand or the style.
Right. It has to have 3 things: adequate foam cushioning to attenuate that shock wave, firm arch support to keep the foot from collapsing inward and pulling the knee out of alignment, and a flexible sole that allows the foot to articulate through its natural heel-to-toe rolling motion. If you're walking in stiff leather loafers or ancient, compacted running shoes, you're actively degrading your structural health.
And this raises an important question about how we structure our habits overall, because having the right biomechanics and the right footwear is really only half the battle.
What's the other half?
The signal we send to the body. This is where we see mistake number 4, the phenomenon of the weekend warrior or the binge walker.
Oh, this is a huge one. Someone will do absolutely zero physical activity Monday through Friday. They sit at a desk, they sit in a car, they sit on the couch.
Very common.
And then Saturday morning, they go out for a massive, exhausting 2.5-hour hike, completely draining themselves, thinking they have effectively checked the box for their cardiovascular health for the week.
It's a logical trap. We think of exercise like putting money in a bank account that a large deposit once a week makes up for a week of zero earnings.
Right, I did my time, I'm good.
But human metabolism does not work like a bank account. It works much more like learning a foreign language.
I like this. How so?
If you try to learn Spanish by studying for 4 frantic, exhausting hours on a Sunday afternoon, and then you don't look at a single Spanish word Monday through Saturday, your brain dumps the information.
Because you aren't using it.
Right. It doesn't retain it because the stimulus isn't frequent enough to signal importance. Your metabolic and cardiovascular pathways operate on the exact same principle.
So a massive 2-hour hike on the weekend doesn't build a sustainable cardiovascular base. It just causes localized inflammation and fatigue because the body wasn't prepared for it.
Precisely. Your body needs a daily whisper, not a weekly shout.
A daily whisper. I love that.
The biological pathways that build mitochondria, improve insulin sensitivity, and strengthen the heart muscle, they require frequent, consistent signaling.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? We have dismantled the bad habits, the cold starts, the heavy head posture, the dead arms, the concrete shoes, and the binge walking. Let's synthesize this into a concrete, beginner-friendly schedule that someone can literally start tomorrow to maximize these longevity benefits.
Okay, the foundational rule is frequency. You want to aim for 20 to 30 minutes most days of the week.
Most days. Got it.
That provides the consistent language your metabolism needs to hear.
Let's break down the actual anatomy of what that perfect 30-minute daily walk looks like.
Okay, minutes 0 to 5 are your mechanical warm-up. You intentionally hold your pace back. You're walking slowly to let the synovial fluid lubricate the joints, allowing the blood vessels in your legs to dilate and prepare for the workload without spiking your heart.
Smooth and easy. Then, minutes 5 to 25 are the core of the engine. This is where you bring conscious awareness to your chassis.
Right, form check.
You imagine that string pulling the crown of your head to the sky. You tuck your phone away. You feel your rib cage lift, allowing the parachute of your diaphragm to pull in deep, oxygen-rich breaths.
And you let your arms swing naturally to counterbalance your hips, recruiting your upper body and elevating your heart rate into a sustainable, brisk zone.
And finally, minutes 25 to 30 are your gradual return to baseline. You taper your speed down, allowing your heart rate to smoothly decelerate and the blood to cycle back out of the working muscles.
It is such a clean, highly optimized routine, but there is one final piece of the puzzle that the sources highlight, and it completely shifts the paradigm of how we view low-impact exercise.
Okay, what is it?
You can have the perfect shoes, flawless posture, and nail that daily 30-minute schedule. But the actual physiological adaptations, the stronger heart, the denser bones, the resilient muscles, they do not actually happen while you are out there walking.
They happen when you stop.
Exactly. This brings us to mistake number 7, the myth of the zero recovery workout.
Because walking is universally classified as low impact, people treat it like it extracts no toll from the body whatsoever.
Right. They finish their walk, sit down, and give absolutely no thought to tissue recovery.
The mindset is, well, I didn't run a marathon, so I don't need to recover. But the sources are adamant that neglecting recovery after a daily walk guarantees you'll eventually run into stiffness and fatigue.
It's inevitable.
So what does the science of recovery actually look like for someone walking 30 minutes a day?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it begins at the cellular level with hydration. We all know we should drink water, but the mechanism behind it is critical for movement.
How so?
Your muscles and connective tissues are wrapped in a web called fascia. When you're hydrated, fascia acts like a wet sponge. It's supple, it slides smoothly, and it absorbs impact.
And when you're dehydrated?
It acts like a dried out kitchen sponge, or, beef jerky.
Beef jerky fascia, yikes.
Yeah, it becomes brittle, sticky, and restrictive. If you're walking daily without aggressively rehydrating, your fascial lines tighten up, which pulls your joints out of alignment and causes that classic stiff feeling the next morning.
That makes so much sense.
Furthermore, your muscles store energy in the form of glycogen, and every gram of stored glycogen binds to roughly 3 grams of water.
Oh, wow.
If you lack water, your muscles literally cannot store the energy required to repair themselves for the next day's walk.
So water isn't just to cool you down, it is a structural component of your muscle tissue.
Exactly.
And alongside hydration, there's the mechanical recovery. Taking just 2 minutes post-walk, while the tissues are still warm and pliable, to gently stretch the calves, the hamstrings, and the hip flexors. It preserves the range of motion that the walk just generated.
And crucially, having the wisdom to take scheduled rest days.
Right, because taking a day off isn't a lapse in discipline. It's a biological requirement for adaptation. The structural remodeling of your body, the strengthening of the tendons, and the building of new cardiovascular capillaries requires downtime.
Yes, you really have to treat your daily walk with the exact same respect a professional athlete gives their training camp.
That is a great mindset shift. You need to warm up the tissues, execute with perfect form, hydrate the fascia, stretch the muscles, and rest the system. It's just scaled differently for daily longevity. It's an entire ecosystem of health.
When you combine that mechanical precision with intelligent recovery, walking transcends being just a chore. It becomes one of the most highly effective, sustainable interventions we have for preserving human vitality well into our later decades.
Okay, let's do a quick, energetic recap of everything we've unpacked today for you listening so you can take this straight to the pavement. First, audit your closet. If the EVA foam in your shoes is dead and lacking arch support, throw them out before they send shockwaves into your lower back.
Get rid of them.
When you step outside, do not redline the engine. Give yourself a 3 to 5 minute slow walk to literally squeeze that synovial fluid into your cartilage. Put the phone in your pocket, stop hanging 50 pounds of torque on your neck, and imagine that string pulling you tall so your diaphragm can actually pull in oxygen.
Swing those arms naturally.
Yes, let those arms swing to recruit your upper body vascular system. Commit to the language of consistency with 20 to 30 minutes most days. And for the love of your fascia, drink your water and stretch when you get home.
It is a series of very subtle, entirely manageable adjustments, but collectively they redefine the physical reality of the movement.
Here's where it gets really interesting. I want you to think about this as you go about the rest of your day. Walking is arguably the most natural, completely automated, completely mindless movement that human beings perform.
Right, we almost never think about the mechanics of a single step once we learn how to do it as toddlers.
Exactly. But if bringing just a tiny bit of conscious awareness to something so deeply automatic can so dramatically alter our joint health, our daily energy, and our long-term physical longevity, what other mindless daily habits are we executing entirely wrong right now?
Oh, that's a brilliant question.
Right. What about the physics of how we sit at our desks? The biomechanics of how we breathe when we're stressed, the way we chew our food? If simply changing the angle of your head and the rhythm of your arms during a basic walk can literally change your life, imagine what else in your daily routine is just waiting to be optimized.
It really is a profound realization. True health isn't usually found in extreme interventions. It's built entirely through mastering these deeply ingrained daily physical choices.
It really is. Well, thank you all so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you feel thoroughly equipped and inspired, and we warmly encourage you to really enjoy your next properly postured, perfectly paced walk. Take care.